My name is Stacie, and I was diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer October of 2020. When I was initially diagnosed, I decided to go through standard care, as that is what was familiar with me. Unfortunately, through the chemo and additional chemo that they added, they confirmed that my tumor was chemo-resistant, meaning that I did not have any effect to the chemo. Nothing changed in the positive. So after multiple rounds of chemotherapy, they decided to go ahead and remove it through a double mastectomy. At that point, I had over 30 rounds of exterior radiation, 6 months of oral chemo, and reconstruction at that point. That put me in January of 2022, where I was deemed cancer-free. At that point, within the next 30 days, I started feeling chest pressure, and that continued up until about March, when I went back to my oncologist, complained about the chest pressure and shortness of breath, and they were hyper-focused on my heart at that time. So I had an echocardiogram, I had a heart monitor, everything came back with flying colors, and I was told that it was nothing at that point. I continued to experience the pain, and it worsened as time went on. So much so that eventually they decided to do a scan of my chest. In July of 2022, it was discovered that I had 2 large masses in my lungs that had metastasized from my original triple negative. At that point, I was given 6 months to live. I was given the information that there was nothing else they could do. My oncologist specifically said, "We gave you everything but the kitchen sink," was her exact verbiage. And because it was resistant initially, they had no additional options for me. The only option they were giving me was the same chemo treatment that I initially had. That was deemed ineffective. At that point, my husband and I refused to take that as an answer or a solution to my metastases, and we deep dove into other options, looking into other facilities through standard care, and that's when we were introduced to alternative care and what options we may have through that avenue. So we ended up having quite a few consultations with different alternative doctors. And what really made the difference with Dr. Von Schaefer, initially she wanted all my records. She wanted everything from day one. And that really stood out to me because she took my case very seriously. And when we actually had our initial consultation, she knew everything about what I had already gone through and had a really immense knowledge of what I was looking for moving forward. And at that point, we were in Oregon. My husband and I currently live outside of Portland. And I remember her saying, we have options, and if I can get down here, we can get started immediately. And there was also a level of urgency that I hadn't felt from any other doctor. And this had been months and months of me feeling this pain. And then once it was determined that it was 2 large masses, there was a sense of urgency from Cody and I that we hadn't felt from a lot of the primary doctors we were looking at. So a combination between her knowledge, the ability of getting us in immediately, and just feeling like we finally had a plan of action was one of the best feelings that I had in months. And we ultimately decided she was the best fit for us, and we are very happy with the decision that we made that day, and I've been here ever since. Absolutely, and going back a little bit to why we chose Dr. Von Schaefer as well, this treatment is curated specifically for your body. And what I found through standard care was that I was put in a box that I didn't fit in. So something that I was drawn to is understanding and learning that there was actual treatments that were specific to my body and tested through my own cancer cells to see what they would respond to. So when I initially came, we had extensive blood work done, more so than I had ever had in standard care, and then went through a series of testing to decide what my body would actually respond to. And here at VVSMD, I've received a lot of therapies that are non-invasive, plant-based therapies that are extremely, extremely effective, along with low-dose chemotherapy that has also responded substantially better than anything that I received. And the low dose has allowed me to live life to the fullest. I feel better now than I did during my entire standard care. In addition to my tumors were unfortunately so large because I had been misdiagnosed for so long that we really did need to hit it with some radiation. So I did initially do a few rounds of radiation and external seeding as well with a doctor that Dr. Von Schaefer works with. And since that time, I've maintained the additional treatments that have helped support my body and teaching my body to fight naturally back, and also re-energizing and putting all the goods back in my body, which standard care that's not something that they do in standard care. So I think that has made a world of difference. I know it has because I feel so much better. So even with the low dose chemotherapy, I'm still able to feel good and heal all along the way. The first go around, I was completely unable to function. One of the chemotherapies I was on, the nurses called the Red Devil, and that was actually verbalized to me the first day that I had received it. And the nurse showed up in a hazmat suit with a full face mask, and she's holding this syringe that she's pushing into my IV line. And I remember thinking, well, if the cancer doesn't kill me, then this will. And I was left with nothing left in my body and very weak. When I initially came to VVSMD, we often talk about it, Dr. Von Schaefer and I. I wasn't able to talk because my lungs would cause so much pain and shortness of breath. I was unable to even go upstairs or even walk, a short distance because of the pressure, and I felt absolutely horrible. So the transformation from when I arrived in August to now is an absolute life-changing. It's been amazing. So at this point, with the radiation and the seeding and the low-dose chemotherapy, at this point, both tumors are dead. And we are hoping with the vaccine that is in line for me, that will be my next step, that also works to break down particles of the tumor. So though they're still there, they are not active, and they are not releasing any sort of cancer cells at this time. So for us, that's a huge win. Yeah. One of the biggest things that I wish I would have known with the first diagnosis, and then I'll go into my second, but with the first diagnosis, you have such a feeling of like, oh my goodness, I need to do something right away. But the first diagnosis, I would really encourage people to take a moment and step back. Don't just take standard care as your primary option. Now, a lot of people, it's very effective, and my mom went through it twice and she's now cancer-free. So there's elements to it that I think are great. But I wish if I could go back to myself in 2020 in October when I was first diagnosed, I wish I had the opportunity and the knowledge base and empowerment to say, hold on, let me see what other options I have, because I truly believe that if I had gone through alternative medicine the first go around, I would be in a very different state at this point in my journey. And the second piece to that is that if and when you are told this has metastasized and we're not able to do anything, and standard care literally folds their arms and gives you, a timeline, what I would love to share with everyone is that there's other options out there. And it's unfortunate at this point, those aren't readily available. So one of the reasons why I think it's so powerful to share my story is that I will continue to empower people to look at other options. And I hope that my story continues to encourage people in the fact that when you're told there's nothing left, know that there are options out there. It's just a matter of knowing what those options are and taking the time to research and look into them. If I can share anything, that is what I would share with everyone. Absolutely. Going through this journey, it's been very awakening for the connection between body, soul, mind, all of it. And I have made an intense effort through prayer, through meditation, through just really trying to understand my mental state, and then just focusing on my body. I talk to this being every day. I appreciate this, and I often will just hold my hands to my chest and I will talk to my body, because at the end of the day, this is what is working. We're all as one, and it's been through hell and back. And if I can feed my body and feel into this and actually know exactly what's going on, oftentimes now at this point, Dr. Von Schaefer knows this about me. I can go to her and say, this is what I'm feeling, and I believe this is what it is. And obviously we talk about it and she'll look into it as the expert. But it's been very empowering to get to a level of understanding how my body works and really playing a part in this healing process. It's so much more than medicine. It's so much more than reading a book. It's really understanding day to day what you can do mentally, emotionally, and physically for your being, for your body, because it all plays into one. It's all interconnected. So I believe very strongly in that as part of your healing process. And listening, your body will tell you what it needs. It will tell you what it wants. And if you can just really hone into that and believe in that, then you'll know. Yeah. And find someone who will listen, which is a huge factor in my story. I don't ever want to speak ill to standard care, because I do think that it plays a really huge role in a lot of people's lives. And a lot of friends that I have met have had successful stories. But that's another piece that I would speak to. If someone's not listening to you, find someone who will, because they're out there. It's just a matter of finding them, and be empowered to keep asking questions. No question is a dumb question. No question should not be asked. Ask those questions, because this is your life, your being, your body, and you gotta fight for it in any way you can. It's been a journey, my friends. It has, but I am so happy to be here, and what I have received from this alternative care versus standard care is night and day difference in every part of the healing process, and I'm just so thankful. I come in every day thankful to be here, and thankful for this team that stands behind me, supports me, and listens to me, and is rooting for me every step of the way to heal and be whole again. So here we are.